Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, the left loses it over NPR and PBS defunding and Colbert being canceled. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
We did a story a couple days ago, and it got me going down the rabbit hole. This was a story about in Lacey, Washington, where a puppy was found in a car having ingested Narcan from its owner, Narcan that was in the vehicle, and both the owner and the puppy were having overdoses. Now, the thing that's interesting to me is the mainstream media mostly ignored that the owner was also having an overdose. When we first heard the story, we assumed puppy left in the car with the fentanyl. Who even knows where the owner is? But there's something weird about this case. What's weird about this case is normally after there's something like this, what's the first thing you see everywhere? Who wants to adopt this puppy? Who wants to save this puppy? Did you see anything about that in the local news? I saw People magazine picked up this story, but yet nobody was saying who wants to adopt this adorable puppy. Because I'm sure you would have gotten a home like that. Like that. I would have adopted the puppy, and my wife can't even handle the smell of dog food. I would have done it. I would have taken care of it. I don't think I would have been able to bring it to the office. I think we have a no animal rule in our office here. But I would have adopted that puppy. I'm sure many of other people would have done it. And yet I didn't see that, which means likely they didn't take it away from its owner. I will assume that is what happened, unless the fire department took it and said, oh, it's going to become a mascot for us. I didn't see anything about this. Because here, the drug addicts have more rights than the people they affect. We don't get the drug addicts off the streets. We don't get them off the streets so they can stop doing crime on the streets, so they can stop living in tents. And for sure, we don't take their kids away from them, even though the kids are overdosing and dying at ridiculous rates thanks to the Washington Democrats Keeping Families Together Act. And now we know how bad these numbers are. We've been screaming this from the rooftops since this bill went into effect. I remember the first time I saw the article, I said, wait a minute. You're going to have babies that are born to moms who are addicted to drugs, and you're going to leave the kids with the mom? So the mom was irresponsible enough to be doing drugs while she's pregnant with a baby, and you think she's going to make a good parent? As we said at the time with the puppy story, I said, how come we let the people who can't take care of themselves take care of animals? That's not compassionate. Oh, you're taking away their pets. Well, yeah, they're ingesting fentanyl. You know, I went down the rabbit hole on that one. I went to PETA's website, the People for Eating Tasty Animals. Oh, wait, that's not what that stands for. People for Ethical Treatment of Animals. I went to the website, and I couldn't find any information on animals dying from overdoses. I went to the CDC. I went to Washington's health officials. I couldn't find anything. So as a last resort, I went to Grok. Grok didn't have anything. So sorry, second to last resort. I went over to ChatGPT. ChatGPT couldn't find anything because nobody's even tracking how many animals overdose a year because of fentanyl. We have all these animal rights groups and none of them are tracking this? It could only mean that for them, they don't care because it conflicts with another one of their narratives. They keep trying to normalize drug addict behavior rather than solve drug addict behavior, so they don't care about the pets. What about the kids? Now, according to the Center Square, the Washington State Department of Youth, Children, Families Oversight Board received devastating news from a state office of Family and Children's Ombudsman. During a 4-hour meeting on Thursday, Patrick Dowd, director of the OFCO, told board members that 45 children died or suffered a near-fatal incident during the second quarter of 2025, meaning April through June. The group investigates complaints about state agencies involved with children in need of protection, those in state care, and families involved with the child welfare system due to allegations of maltreatment. So the Washington Keeping Families Together Act basically said you can't take these kids away from their drug-addicted parents, no matter how drug-addicted they are. This is a longer clip, and the guy talks like a guy who works for one of these organizations. But give a listen to what he said.
We didn't want to, leave a reader with the misimpression that we know things are getting better and things have topped out and are actually starting to decline, when in fact we had preliminary information from the first quarter of 2025 that might paint a very different picture as we move forward into 2025. Just earlier this week, I looked at our numbers for the second quarter of 2025, and that's not included in this slide, but it showed 45 errors reports regarding child fatalities and near fatalities compared to 47 in the first quarter. There were 6 cases involving accidental ingestion of fentanyl by children ages 0 to 3, which compares to 14 cases in the first quarter of 2025. And as far as cases that qualify for a review or received a review, in the second quarter, 9 cases have either already received a review or are now scheduled for a review, meaning, yes, the critical incident is attributed to abuse or neglect, and the family was involved with the department in the preceding 12 months. And then there are another 12 cases where the department is waiting for additional information, which is not unusual. Very often at the time of the critical incident, there's not enough information to determine what the cause of the near fatality or fatality was, if it was directly attributed to child maltreatment or not. So we wanted also to include some information that might paint a picture of where things are heading in 2025. Obviously, we don't have anything definitive, but we thought it was important to kind of report on the information that we have at this time.
Summary. Kids are dying because of this law, and the numbers are going up. And while beforehand you might have tried to claim this was an anomaly, they're going up and up and up. This is a man who clearly talks about data and looks at data all day long. This is a group who, if they could spin this somehow for the Democrats, would be spinning this somehow for the Democrats. And yet they're not doing it anymore, because it is clear that when you leave kids in the care of drug addicts who can't take care of themselves, they are now at risk. I'll tell you a little story from my own life, which was awful, absolutely awful. I had some friends over by the pool, by my in-laws' pool one time. And I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to go get some drinks, and the kids are in the pool and whatever. And I said, can you watch my kid for a second? And my kid walked right off the deck, right into the pool. And luckily, one of my friends went jumping right in after him. Pulled him right out of the water. That was that. Turn your back for 2 seconds. For 2 seconds. And something like that could happen. That's it. In 2 seconds, a life could be over. Think about that. In a drug addict's house. Oh, and what's the solution the Democrats have? Oh, we'll just lock up everything, right? Yeah, because the guy who just injected himself with heroin is going to care about locking up the drugs. The guy who just smoked fentanyl in front of his kids is going to care about locking up the drugs. Oh, he turned on Dora the Explorer. What, you mean the electronic babysitter wasn't working okay? You had a whole bunch of people testifying at this meeting talking about how bad it is. So let's go back to what this law was, House Bill 1227, because originally Republicans voted for it too, because Republicans didn't want kids being taken away from their parents by CPS, because CPS is so bad. But what happened was they didn't realize what was going to happen, and ever since then, Republicans have been trying to reverse it, and Democrats have been saying, no, it's fine. Under the law, substance abuse and housing instability alone no longer qualify as reasons for emergency intervention. Do you remember when Jonathan Cho went out to a homeless encampment, which I believe was behind a Fred Meyer, and found a woman living in a tent with a baby? And she said she had been visited by state agencies, but they didn't do anything about it? Jonathan Cho and Andrea Suarez are the ones who helped out that baby, not state agencies. Jamie Williams, a foster parent and labor and delivery nurse, said, "I am here today as someone who is deeply disgusted by the direction our child welfare system is headed. We are sending our most vulnerable children back into the most lethal environments. A 200% increase in critical incidents is not just a statistic, it's a failure." She said, "The so-called Keeping Families Together Act is tragically misnamed. Rather than preserving families, the law is accelerating the destruction of them." Christina Johnson said the kids are dying because of this law, arguing the DCYF continues to cite the fentanyl crisis, but the real problem is that children are being kept in the homes where those dangers exist. If the children weren't in the home, they wouldn't be dying. We've had Travis Couture on this show multiple times talking about how dangerous this law is, and kids are dying because of it, and very few Democrats are doing anything about it. I think I saw Mari Levitt the other day showing, wait, we got to do something about this. She's the only sane Democrat left. Do you remember some of the cases as a result of this? In one devastating 2024 case we covered it at the time, a newborn in Port Townsend, born with fentanyl in his system, was placed in the custody of his father, Jordan Sorensen, after passing initial drug tests. Sorensen later stopped complying with drug screening and vanished with the baby. Authorities eventually located him without the child. The baby was found dead, his body left in the bushes. Jefferson County Prosecutor James Kennedy was blunt in his assessment. He said this was a foreseeable result. According to the law, substance abuse or housing issues do not constitute imminent physical risk to a child. That has been proven tragically wrong. In another 2024 incident, 4-year-old Ariel Garcia was stabbed to death up to 41 times, allegedly by his mother, Janet Garcia, whose own mother had just filed for custody days earlier, citing erratic and dangerous behavior fueled by drugs and alcohol. Despite these warnings, Ariel remained with his mother until his mutilated body was found alongside I-5. Court documents revealed that Garcia had previously taken the boy into bars, abandoned him with other children, and become increasingly violent, yet no action was taken to remove the child under the standards of the Keeping Families Together Act. How many times have we discussed this? In 2022 alone, 85 children under state supervision died, 22 of those deaths linked to accidental drug ingestion, 67% involving fentanyl. Now, 2025 is on pace to surpass those figures. At what point do you guys admit that this program was a failure that is costing kids lives? Democrats don't seem to care. What did Bob Ferguson and the Democrats just defund? A treatment center. A treatment center for these newborns who are born addicted to drugs. They defunded that. They want to normalize drug behavior. If you look at the People's Harm Reduction Alliance and all these other quote-unquote safe injection site organizations, advocates, they're always trying to normalize drug use, as if you can go through life being a functional drug addict. We don't do that with alcoholics. We don't do that with other addictions. But for some reason, this one, they want to keep doing. Are you insane? Are you absolutely insane? You want to see our future? You had Los Angeles and Los Angeles County and California celebrating this week because the number of people on the streets went down. But if you actually looked at the numbers, that's because the numbers of people dying on the streets went up. Oh, we've got less homeless. Sir, that's because a lot of people died. Never mind that. They're celebrating death. They're trying to normalize death. The next time they call all of us non-compassionate, you guys don't have any compassion whatsoever. We know what they're actually celebrating.
Death, horrible death.
Yeah.
Super dead.
That's exactly what these people are celebrating, and it's awful. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Ted in Gig Harbor. Ted, what's going on?
Well, Ari, 25 years ago, they used to take kids away from their parents at the drop of a hat. You know, oh, you spanked your kids. Oh, my God, we got to get them into foster care. And now, you can't get them out, even if it's a dangerous situation, as you pointed out. On a sort of a macabre, humorous way, they got those commercials on the radio. You guys play them, about locking guns up. There's the one with the party, and the gal says, opens the drawer. Ooh, yeah, unless somebody needs a gun. Well, how about this commercial? You got a bunch of druggies sitting around getting high, and one of them looks over and says, "Hey, man, you didn't lock up your syringes in your stash, man."
Yeah, well, the problem is we deal in real things around here. That would never happen. I'm shocked they haven't done those kind of commercials yet. But would anybody actually believe those things? No. I mean, you see the people on the streets when you're driving through Seattle. Okay, for the last few days, there is a guy in front of the 7-Eleven across from Como Plaza. And Mike, I don't know if you've seen this guy. You come the other way. Every single day, this guy is getting more and more naked. Every day he is missing a different article of clothing. Where the first day he just had the plumber's crack, and now like he's missing the shirt, and today like the pants were even lower. Just every day missing something else. These people can't take care of themselves. So why do we expect them to take care of pets and kids? Right, I'm just telling you. We see this stuff every day. We commute to Seattle. You're out in Gig Harbor. You don't have to deal with this kind of stuff. Ted, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, Cam Higbee, the journalist who was assaulted by Antifa, will be joining us in studio to tell us if his assailant got hit with charges at a hearing today. We'll give you all details. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, my friends, it's been an exciting couple days here in Seattle. We were wondering if the Antifa militant, who allegedly, and I can't believe I have to say the word allegedly, even though the whole thing was caught on film, who allegedly assaulted our friend, journalist Cam Higbee, was actually going to be charged. It's been pretty much a month since that assault. And we found out this week he was arrested. Jeremy Lawson was arrested while boarding a raft to go hang out with his friends with a bunch of beers. That's going to put a damper on the day. But he's been in court the past couple days, and joining us now live right here in the KVI studios is journalist Cam Higbee with an update for us. How you doing, buddy?
How's it going? Yeah, I just got back from court. He was formally charged with a felony in connection to the assault back in June, and they finally got him, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah. So he's formally charged. That's great news. And did they keep the bit? Excuse me, I can't speak English today. It's a Friday. I'm just thinking about that scotch after work today. Did they keep the bail set at $75,000? How's it looking?
They didn't say anything indicating a change, so I assume it's the same. I checked it last night. It was still set at $75,000. So
Yeah.
I assume
So hopefully that means he's going to stay there. Now, yesterday they didn't let journalists film him in the courtroom. Was he in the courtroom today?
He wasn't in the courtroom today. They don't bring him in for second appearances.
Gotcha. So he's basically in his holding cell, staring at the walls or whatever it is that he's doing there.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
Let's back up a second and go through what happened that night. So you came in and you spoke to us right after it happened. You got a concussion during this whole mess. You were covering the anti-ICE riots down there at the Federal Building in downtown Seattle. Walk us through what happened.
Yeah, so first I was in Tukwila, and that's where Brandy got assaulted. And so I was there for that, and then that kind of died down. Everybody packed up and went home. Then I went over to Seattle because it was just a kind of intuitive jump that, well, they're not, now they're going to be over to Seattle. Right? So we went over to the Federal Building, and a small group of people outside the Federal Building just kind of, waving signs at cars and climbing poles and stuff like that. And, I didn't expect much would develop, but it did. And this is the same day as the No King stuff, which was relatively peaceful in Seattle. And then this group decided they were going to take over the streets. And then slowly more people started trickling in. You had some more troublemakers, some people that were clearly on drugs and intoxicated, shirts off, just all kinds of mayhem. So they blocked the cars with these bird scooters. And they would basically say, you have to say F ICE, and if you don't, you can't go. And so if they don't say F ICE, they're lighting fires underneath the occupied vehicles that can't go anywhere because it's a one-way and every lane of traffic is blocked by these scooters or by people physically in front of them, or they would shoot fireworks at them, throw liquids into their cars, stuff like that. At one point, they even started diverting the traffic up towards where the police were staging. They didn't actually end up coming. SPD decided they were going to let leadership decided they were going to let the protest tucker itself out. So there was this lull eventually over by the Federal Building, and I sat down up against this half wall, which I rarely do in the field. I almost never sit down. But it was just such a lull that I was like, okay, this is, nothing's going on right now. It's kind of boring. I might leave soon.
Also, you're all masked up. You don't look you look more like one of the Antifa guys.
I'm undercover.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So usually when I'm undercover, very low likelihood that they actually figure out who I am. So somehow they figured out who I am, and there was this person, Tyler Hahn, who I had been assaulted by at a previous protest, the one outside City Hall, and he had DM'd me on Instagram basically telling me, just so you know, leftists carry guns, don't come back. I was like, okay, that's a death threat, obviously.
Yeah.
Thinly veiled. So I hear his voice while I'm sitting down at the Federal Building. Hey, Cam, it's time for you to leave. And then 3 people approach me from the opposite side of the street, middle or opposite side, one of the two. And before I know it, before I can even stand up, I'm pinned up against this wall, hands all over the visor of my gas mask. I just put a gas mask on because I probably foolishly believed that SPD was going to show up and break it up, and they didn't. And of course, again, that order comes from mayor, chief. It has nothing to do with the officers. They want to take care of this stuff. But so I'm pinned up against this wall, and I'm kind of fighting to get into my pockets for my pepper spray.
Yeah.
And then I get flipped over, and now I'm being choked from behind by Jeremy Lawson. And then I get punched in the head twice by Lawson. And I flip around. Now I have the pepper spray kind of in my hand, in my pocket, and he kicks me in the face. And then I pull the pepper spray out and spray him. And I pretty much unleashed a full can.
And then on the video, we see him crying about how he got sprayed in the eyes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
figured that out. Yep.
Yeah.
Now he's on the ground crying.
So we had this guy identified from the video within 24 hours. We still say allegedly because he's been charged, but he hasn't been convicted yet. So this guy was identified within 24 hours as being the guy seen on the video. And yet it took 4 or 5 weeks for this guy to get arrested. Give us an insight of what was going on behind the scenes, because I know I was asking them for comment almost every single day. Why hasn't this guy been arrested yet? I was asking the King County prosecutors and I was asking the police department. I assume you were talking to them a lot. What was going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, the police have worked really hard on this case, and they are, dedicated to it. They want to get it taken care of. I think a lot of backlog comes with the prosecutor. I think it's difficult to deal with the prosecutor's office, in the state or in the area, or whatever. When I called SPD initially to file my report, the responding officer told me, just so you know, the prosecutor will not take cases related to protests. There's obviously at some point a line, if you kill somebody at a protest, presumably it'll be taken care of. But there is a huge gray area that I assume takes up the majority of crimes that could be committed at a protest that just simply will not be prosecuted in the city of Seattle because it took place at a protest and prosecutor won't take them. So later on, when you and Brandy and everybody was looking for comment from SPD on why a detective hadn't been assigned to the cases, after I had that phone call conversation, I reported it, filed the report, all that. They transferred it over to homicide and assault, and now they have it, but a detective's not on the case yet. So everybody's barking their tree up. Why have you not put a detective on this case? Whatever. So we called them, and we were like, why is there not a detective on this case? And they were like, we don't prosecute misdemeanor assaults in the city of Seattle.
That didn't look like a misdemeanor assault.
Exactly. That's what we were saying, but we were kind of like, kind of just caught up in the shock of you can attack somebody in the city of Seattle as long as it's not a felony. As long as it falls under a misdemeanor, you're free to attack that person because the prosecutor won't take the case.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, while these 4 or 5 weeks are going through, what we knew was he was texting you allegedly. I can't believe I have to keep saying that. But you posted the text online that allegedly came from him where he's saying, hey, how you doing? Just checking in, which is a not so subtle form of intimidation. And then yesterday, we found this out. You may have known this beforehand, but apparently he was looking to buy a gun while he was just wandering the streets, probably figuring, well, I can get away with anything I want at this point, right?
Yeah, we confirmed, and I won't say which one, but we confirmed with a law enforcement agency that was, in fact, his phone number, and he identified himself. I said, who is this? Jeremy Lawson. He admitted it was him, and then we confirmed that it was his phone number. Because, it could be somebody trolling.
Sure. So
we got it confirmed, and it's him. And he started off by using my legal name, which is not a name that I go by publicly. And that's obviously a subtle form of intimidation.
Right.
And then he ended the conversation after I told him, do not contact me again. He sent me 4 more text messages, one of them letting me know that he knows where I live. And so that's pretty scary when you combine it with the fact that he's trying to buy a gun. And his wife's on Twitter insisting it's because they're scared for their situation. It's like, well, then if you're so scared for your situation, why do you keep texting me? Because I got a text maybe Saturday when I'm on my way home from Florida for a work trip, and I get this text message, and I have strong suspicion that it's Jeremy. And at the time, I had a strong suspicion that it was Jeremy. And this is just a block text, has all my information, everything about me, from the town I grew up in to my exact current address to family members, whatever, all that information. And I had a strong suspicion at the time it was Jeremy. And then I found out that the day he sent that just so happened to also have been the day that the temporary protection order I filed on him expired.
Wow.
And that he knew that. And so he felt comfortable. It was sent from a burner phone. So it's not, you trace the number back and it's like a swamp touring company in Louisiana. It's obviously a fake number. But it just so happened to have been that exact day. And I finished it off by saying, I thought the protection order was still active. So I said, Mr. Lawson, you're in violation of your protection order. He stopped answering completely, probably out of, second guessing himself that maybe it was still active. But it's just a little ironic. And also, all communications with that number and also a Twitter account that is sending the same stuff, like the exact same message he sent me, or that I received, the text message. There's a Twitter account recycling all that information and making threats. And all of that completely ceased when he went to jail.
Aha.
So that account tweeted at me the night before he went to jail and since has not tweeted.
Fortuitous timing, I would say. Now,
Very strange. Yeah.
There's another suspect who you mentioned before who is mentioned in the court documents. We've been pressuring the Seattle police. We've been pressuring the King County prosecutors to see if this guy's going to get in jail. But as they say in Star Wars, we will follow this story with great interest to see what's going on here. Cam, I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm glad you're up on your feet. I'm glad you're back doing what you do. But take care of yourself, all right? We need you out there.
I will.
All right. Cam Higbee, we appreciate you coming in. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues, including PBS and NPR are officially getting defunded, and the left is in complete meltdown mode over it. We'll give you all the details when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, it's official. PBS and NPR are going to be defunded as part of the $9 billion rescission package that is pushed by the Republicans and will be signed by President Trump most likely sometime today if it hasn't been done so already. And the thing I keep coming back to is, why should these two outlets get funding when nobody else does? I don't think any media outlet should get funding. This is not me saying, hey, I want government funding for KVI. I am not asking for that. In fact, there's a reason we haven't applied for these Morrow fellowships. As much as I think it would be funny to apply and get rejected by the ones that Washington State offers, I don't feel right even applying for it. I think it would be funny to apply, but I don't feel right doing it because we talk about government waste all the time, and we're going to say, yeah, we really need it for the radio station here. Luckily, we have wonderful sponsors. We have you guys that keep us in business. And if you ever want to sponsor the Ari Hoffman Show, reach out, arikvi.com. That's arikvi.com. You can have your name right next to mine. You get to hear it every single day on the show. But you have the left absolutely losing it. The one thing that I think is their weakest argument is that people rely on these stations during a disaster. That's the narrative we keep hearing again and again and again. Let me ask everybody out there in our listening public, when there's a disaster, are you listening to the radio, are you watching TV, or are you checking your cell phone? Are you getting updates from your cell phone? What happens in a disaster? If God forbid there is one. What happens in a snowstorm? What happens in a heat wave? You're checking your phone to go, what's the weather today? But if this is the case they're actually making, Representative Chip Roy shut them down because of what happened during the recent floods.
There's a lot of folks here talking about and extolling the virtues of NPR, PBS, public broadcasting, and so forth, and talked about how they're cutting their funding is somehow going to endanger communities and rural communities. Well, when the floods were hitting the people that I represent, it took NPR through Texas Public Radio 19 hours to post anything about the flooding on its social media. What was NPR and TPR doing in the interim? What were they doing in the morning at 4, 5, 6, 7 in the morning when private radio stations that I listened to and that I talked to were breaking in and presenting the information of the news? They were playing a program, a DC-based program, lobbying Congress for billions of dollars to continue their funding. When the flood hit at 4 in the morning, instead of providing local news, they were airing the morning edition of the Washington, D.C. Well, that's fine. They already had it pre-taped. I get that. But they didn't break in like the local stations did and so forth. The 7 private stations posted over 70 alerts on their social pages throughout the day, starting at 7:24 in the morning. My point being, private stations in the communities in which I live were there for the people of Texas. They were there presenting the information necessary. And the public stations were completely MIA.
Do you realize what he's saying with that? Talk radio stations were the ones giving everybody the news. Even the mainstream media stations, their local affiliates, were the ones giving everybody these oh-so-needed updates during the floods. But PBS, NPR, they were busy lobbying for funding. And look, like he said, we all understand pre-recorded programming. But I'll tell you a little story about what happened around here. Our friends over at Northwest News Radio, they had some pre-recorded programming running the weekend that somebody tried to kill the president. And our friend, Jeff Pogula, the senior political reporter over there, he went running down to the station to interrupt the broadcast because he knew there was a massive story going on. That's what you do when there's real news happening. But NPR doesn't have to be accountable to anybody. PBS doesn't have to be accountable to anybody. Forget their bias for a second. This claim that in a disaster you need these stations, it just doesn't hold up. It's just not true. They should have to compete in the marketplace of ideas like everybody else. And as we've gone through many times before, they have many profitable products, like the Children's Television Workshop. And when you're bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars a year, and yes, we actually went through how much money they bring in yesterday, when you're bringing in that, you don't need the $8, $9, $10 million you're getting from the federal government. You just don't. And yet they keep claiming, oh, people are going to die, people are going to die, people are going to die. Give me a break. It just ain't true. And they traffic in fake news. Speaking of fake news, by the way, Wall Street Journal publishes this article claiming that President Trump sent Jeffrey Epstein a birthday card. Okay, guys, we know they were friends way back when. We know they had a falling out, like many people did, with Jeffrey Epstein. We know that Donald Trump banned Jeffrey Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago resort in the early 2000s. We know that all this happened. This is all fact. This is undisputed. And yet, it seems like the left is trying to prove there's a there there. I'm really disappointed in the Wall Street Journal for publishing all this, even though they went to the Trump administration and they said, can we get comment from you? And what they were told was, this card is fake, we didn't do it, and if you print it, we're going to sue you. Now, as I understand it, I have to confirm this, but I believe that Donald Trump has already filed suit against Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal over this, saying, we warned you, this thing was not true. You ran with it anyway. I'm going to tell you why I think this thing isn't accurate. And the reason I believe that is because it doesn't sound like Trump at all. The writing of this doesn't sound like how Donald Trump talks. It uses words that I've never heard President Trump mention before, like enigma. Have you ever heard President Trump use the word enigma? Ever? Anything like that? No. In fact, we all know how President Trump talks. He's one of the most covered people in human history, and he's been part of our zeitgeist and our political commentary for the last, a dozen years. But he's been part of pop culture for basically half a century at this point. Yes, the 80s were over 40 years ago, my friends. This is how President Trump talks. This is how he was talking today.
It's a very important act, the Genius Act. They named it after me, and I want to thank you. This is a hell of an act.
That's how he talks. This thing doesn't even sound like it was written by him. At most, it was written by a secretary, and he signed the card or drew the stick figure or whatever else, but this is irresponsible reporting. You have people flat out denying it and saying, if you run this fake story, we are going to sue the crap out of you, and that's exactly what's happening. When people are talking about the Epstein files, look, right now everybody's got their theories, and President Trump has apparently instructed Pam Bondi to release the grand jury testimony, but she has to go to a judge to get that, so now it's in the judge's hands. But when it comes to the Epstein stuff, if the Democrats had the goods on Donald Trump, you don't think they would have released it when they were trying to indict him for everything under the sun? You don't think they would have released it at any point? These are the guys who leaked his tax receipts, his tax records. You think they wouldn't have released something like this when they had it? This is the Democrats desperately trying to get Trump. But odds are if there is anything in these files, it's probably going to be a lot more on Bill Clinton than there ever was on Donald Trump. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. The left is also in complete meltdown mode over Stephen Colbert getting canceled. I don't think he got canceled because of politics. I think he got canceled because nobody's watching his show. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Just before we get into the woke report, I got a really good text over on the Warrior Injury Law text line from the 530. Guys, remember, give me your name and town, name and town, name and town. 530 says, Ari, a good poll for your audience might be if you give a blank about the Epstein thing. They wrote blank. Thank you for that. So that's a great question to ask the audience. Do you even care about the Epstein thing anymore? Give us a call or a text, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, everybody on the text line is saying where they get their news from, and nobody is saying PBS. Not a single one of them. Switching gears over to the left's new complete meltdown. They're freaking out because the Colbert show, the Late Show, is being canceled, and it's not even being replaced. They're not even replacing Colbert with a different host. So during the break, I went and looked up the ratings for all these shows. Colbert, Kimmel, Fallon, Myers, The Daily Show. Well, basically, nobody's watching The Daily Show anymore. Second to last is Seth Meyers. Then comes Jimmy Fallon. Then comes Jimmy Kimmel. Then comes Stephen Colbert. With more than 1 million listeners more a week over all of them, and Stephen Colbert's at the top of that pile with really lousy ratings, you have Gutfeld on Fox News on cable with more than 1 million more viewers than any of these guys. Certainly more than Colbert. The problem is nobody's watching anymore. Now, I love how the mainstream media and the Democrats are trying to say, oh, it's about CBS and Paramount and the settlement and Trump. Yeah, I'm sure that's part of it. But also, nobody's watching anymore. If it was just Colbert, they'd say, bye, Colbert, and they would keep the legacy of Dave Letterman and anybody who came before him. But it's about the fact that nobody's watching anymore, and it's time for a reboot. Do you remember in 2020 who Colbert had on the show and what she was talking about?
That's right. But they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. And this is a movement, I'm telling you. They're not going to stop. And everyone beware, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And everyone should take note of that on both levels, that they're not going to let up, and they should not. And we should.
That's Kamala Harris saying that Antifa and BLM should not let up, and they're not going to let up before the election. So you find out you're getting canceled. So people tuned in last night. Why is this guy getting canceled? And they're expecting the funny. Unfortunately, there's no funny. Who's your main guest tonight? Is it some movie star? Is it some rock star? Is it somebody who juggles or somebody who tames elephants? I don't know what. No, it's Adam Schiff. That's who your guest is?
They're saying that there's already a message the Democrats have, and it's the FDR message. It's the LBJ message. It's caring for the farmers. It's caring for people who are marginalized. It's making sure people can eat and people can get good jobs. Where'd that message go?
Well, I think that's absolutely right. I think our democracy is in trouble in significant part because the economy is not working for millions of Americans. And it's not that Americans aren't working. They're working harder than ever. The problem is they are working, and they still struggle to get by, more than their parents struggled to get by. And I think when that's the case, all too many people are open to any despot who comes along promising they alone can fix it.
Are there any jokes there? Really? Are there any jokes there? Now, I know he does a monologue and all this other stuff, but, you know, when Donald Trump went on Jimmy Fallon and he got all that flack for having Donald Trump on, how dare you? They were talking about Donald Trump's hair and hairstyles. Jimmy Fallon was combing Donald Trump's hair. There's no funny here. If Stephen Colbert wants to do a political show, then go do what Gutfeld's doing at night and go do it for MSNBC. And people might tune in because it's a political show with some punchlines and stuff. And they're going for their politics. They go the Late Show, they go the Tonight Show for the humor after a long day. Maybe you should take the advice of Johnny Carson about why he never got political.
People say he'll never take a serious controversy. Well, I have an answer to that. I said, now, tell me the last time that Jack Benny, Red Skelton, any comedian, used his show to do serious issues. That's not what I'm there for. Can't they see that? But you're not. Why do they think that just because you have a Tonight Show that you must deal in serious issues? It's a danger. It's a real danger. Once you start that, you start to get that self-important feeling that what you say has great import. And you know, strangely enough, you could use that show as a forum. You could sway people, and I don't think you should as an entertainer.
You could, but people are there for the entertainment. If they wanted the politics, they could go to CNN, they could go to MSNBC, they could go to Fox, they could go to Daily Wire, they can go to Daily Caller, they can go anywhere for that. They're coming to you because they want the humor. Stacey Abrams posted 4 pictures of her in 4 different appearances on Colbert's show. Stacey Abrams, she's not that entertaining. We get complaints when we have comedians on and they're just here to hype a movie or something like that. We get complaints from you guys because they go, why are they here? We're here to talk about politics. Bring back the politics. People come here for the politics and a little bit of fun. People come here for the movie reviews. They come here for the other stuff that we do. Fake News Friday, coming up at 4:45 today. They go to the late night shows for the comedy, and these guys aren't giving them the comedy anymore. When's the last time you saw a clip from The Daily Show, from Seth Meyers, from Jimmy Fallon, from Jimmy Kimmel, from Colbert go viral? That wasn't about something dumb they said politically. You got to redo what's happening in late night and maybe get back to the funny, and then maybe people will start watching again. When we come back, my friends, your chance to take the trip or keep the cash, plus a lot of you want to weigh in on whether or not you still care about this Epstein stuff. We'll go to the phones and we'll go to the text line when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Fake News Friday with Young Zach. Put a smile on your face heading into the weekend. But before we get to any of that, my friends, you work hard, you need a getaway. Perhaps some financial relief given how the economy's looking. We've got you covered with KVI's Take the Trip or Keep the Cash, sponsored by our friends over at Budget Tank Removals. Now this week, you can get away to Maui with surf, sun, and sand, or have a chance at $3,000 cash. Now, all you have to do, when I tell you to, is enter the keyword and only the keyword, not your name, not your address, not your phone number, not your zip code, nothing else, just the word. And you're going to text it to the number I give you. You're not going to email it to me. You're not going to call me with it. You're not going to send it to my social media. You're going to text it to the number I give you. And we'll get you in the daily drawing to get a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card. And you could win the trip or keep the cash with KVI. Today's word is dock. D-O-C-K. That's dock, as in where I park my boat at a dock. Exactly. As it, I'm on a boat, then I'm on the dock. D-O-C-K. Text it to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Text the word dock. You have until 5 p.m. to enter, and only enter it once. Your next chance at winning comes Monday morning at 8 a.m. during the morning ride with Zach and Phil. Remember to check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout delivery order, and more. And speaking of the text line, by the way, before the break, I asked a bunch of you, what you thought about the Epstein thing. Do you think this is something that is just something you really need to know? Is this something that you've had enough of and you don't really care about anymore? And it looks like the majority of you do not care about Epstein at all. You may want a few details. You may want some of those details. You may want them. And then what you are going to do is you're going to say, yeah, I don't really care that much at all. So appreciate everybody calling in with that. Just a reminder, by the way, we have another contest coming up at 4:45 during our Fake News Friday. We have a special contest, my friends. We are going to be giving away fantabulous prizes, including tickets to an advanced screening of The Naked Gun. We're going to be doing that at 4:45 during Fake News Friday with Young Zach, a special bonus contest this week. Also, a reminder, we got a lot going on this weekend. If you want to hang out with us, you can head on out to the King County Fair. That's right. Head on out to the King County Fair this weekend. Zach, Phil, and Mike will be out there tomorrow. It's the 162nd year of the King County Fair. It started the same summer as the Battle of Gettysburg during the Civil War. It's the longest running fair west of the Mississippi. There's going to be scones, cotton candy, and hopefully good weather. Coming out to Enumclaw, a lot of fun for kids and the entire family. It's going to be at the Enumclaw Expo Center. Carnival rides, free entertainment, livestock, and shopping. Saddle up for heart-pounding action and edge-of-your-seat excitement. Grab your boots, get your tickets now for the King County Fair. More information at KVI.com. That's KVI.com. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Eric in Renton. Eric, what do you think about the Epstein files?
Well, I want to know because something happened on that island. Things were happening on that island. They weren't just playing shuffleboard and having barbecues and talking about what can we do for world peace. No, there was things going on. And from my point of view, they have to find out what was, if there was a client list, we want to know. I mean, his girlfriend went to jail for trafficking women. Who did she do that for, and why can't we know that?
Right. So here's the thing that I'm coming at this with. I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. Not at all. What's she doing in jail if there's no crime and there's no list and anything else? Now, mind you, here's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like there was a lot of influence peddling for business. That's what it all sounds like. And horrible things going on to keep your business partners happy. That's what it sounds like to me. My personal theory is I wonder who along the way destroyed a lot of the evidence or Were they so good at keeping the evidence there wasn't anything? I mean, who really puts all this stuff in writing? We assume everybody's that dumb, are they? There may be a there, but there may not be proof of a there. I'm with you, Eric. I completely agree with you. But it may be outside anybody's hands. And the left is clearly doing this because they think they're going to get Trump somehow. But don't you think, Eric, if they had the goods on Trump, they would have released it any time in the last 4 years while Biden was president?
Well, certainly. I do agree. And I guess the people with all the power, like look at P. Diddy, he's basically walking away with a, don't do that again now.
Yeah.
Kind of warning. So I guess it shouldn't be any surprise that people with the money and the power do what they want, when they want, how they want to do it, have their cake, eat it too, and then still be there on the plate when they're done eating it.
Well, I'll tell you one little thing with the P. Diddy thing. The problem was the interstate trafficking charges. They had him dead to rights on the assault and everything else, and then they brought up all the RICO stuff. RICO is very hard to prove in a perfect world, and I believe that Diddy was overcharged. They had video of him beating the hell out of that poor girl. It's also very, very hard to prove coercion. And they went after that. I think they overreached on that case when they had him dead to rights on so many other things. Now, in this case, they've got Ghislaine Maxwell on what they've got her on. Question is a judge going to allow the grand jury testimony to be made public? That's out of the administration's hands. Eric, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This weekend, my friends, you better plan ahead and prepare for possible traffic backups and big delays because the Washington State Department of Transportation will be closing all lanes of northbound I-5 while crews complete work to preserve the Ship Canal Bridge as part of the Revive I-5 project. They're predicting massive traffic backups. So plan accordingly. I did see this video. Mike, I don't know if you saw this one out of Olympia, the one on I-5 where they used a grappler to stop a car going at 130 miles an hour. Yeah, dude, I can't believe we both missed this one. I didn't know they had a grappler. So me playing the audio for you doesn't really do it justice. It's more of a visual thing. Thurston County deputies brought a high-speed chase of a stolen car to an end when they deployed a grappler to rein in the vehicle. Now, this sounds exactly what you think it is. According to Como News, the grappler is a device mounted on a police vehicle's bumper that shoots out a net or a strap that wraps around the rear tire of a vehicle, bringing it to a controlled stop. So what's amazing is the video goes on for a while. This chase is going on for a while. And then the cop gets right up against this guy's bumper and shoots the grappler. And what it does is it wraps around the axle or the wheel, and it stretches out a little bit and then pulls the guy in. This is the most sci-fi, cartoony-looking thing, but it worked. And it worked like that. Really, truly amazing. Now, mind you, if you're looking to avoid the traffic this weekend or you don't want to get grappled for speeding, you can always take Sound Transit, right? Well, Bess Byers, who works over at Reason Magazine, released a video today that's going viral. It's about all the craziness over at Sound Transit. Now, I don't read Reason Magazine. It's not exactly in my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy. And I think what they're mad about is they claim this is all good for the environment, but it's anything but. Listen to this damning indictment of Sound Transit.
Why is Seattle spending $148 billion and cutting down 14,000 trees under the guise of green transportation? That is Sound Transit, the Seattle area's mass transit system. And to fund their ongoing light rail fiasco, they committed car registration fraud? Politicians wanted to alleviate traffic and improve access from the city to the suburbs. So between 1996 and 2016, voters approved a series of light rail projects connecting downtown to Linwood, South King County, West Seattle, Ballard, and Bellevue. And only people in the counties where the light rail operated would pay for it. Unfortunately for them, government funded means it's over budget and behind schedule. First, the Linwood line was $500 million over budget and 6 months behind schedule. And then the predicted costs doubled, and the 7 miles from downtown to Bellevue jumped $225 million. By 2018, Sound Transit was $1 billion over budget in only 1 year. And as the cost of the light rail ballooned, so did the need for money. So the county's increased car registration fees from $30 a year to an added $80 for every $10,000 in estimated value. But Sound Transit used an outdated depreciation schedule to overvalue everyone's car. As retribution, voters passed a bill that would cap car tabs at $30 a year, but Sound Transit estimated this would cost them $7 billion. But luckily, government knows best. The Washington State Transit Association, King County, and City of Seattle filed a lawsuit saying the ballot initiative violated the single subject rule and was therefore unconstitutional. And the state Supreme Court agreed, calling it misleading. In the meantime, Sound Transit cut down 5,300 Douglas fir trees, many of which were planted during the Eisenhower administration. And then a year later, cut down 8,600 trees, with millions in timber becoming property of the contractors.
Now, I want you to think about that for a second. Every single thing she said is 100% true. But I think she's coming at this from the tree angle. Which, by the way, where's the rest of the eco-crazies about that? When you hear all of that stacked up at one time against Sound Transit, you go, this whole thing is a scam. This whole thing is a ripoff. And it's bad for the environment, too. And they're telling us it's good for the environment. I want to know what you think. Do you agree with what she said? Do you disagree with what she said? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And while you're calling in and while you're texting in, I want to remind you that Dow Constantine, who was in charge of King County, was in charge of Sound Transit that entire time while all that was going on. And now he's not in charge of King County. So the question is, what's going to happen? Who's going to be the new King County executive? Well, my friends, this election season, many of the races that we are tracking are a choice between the radical crazy socialist and the lunatic lefty liberal. Fortunately for us, we have an option when it comes to King County executive that is neither of these two things. Joining us now on the Warrior Injury Law studio line is Derek Chartrand, who's running for King County executive. Thanks so much for being with us today, man.
Thanks, Ari. Thanks for having me on.
Such a pleasure. Why'd you decide to get into this viper's pit?
Sure. Well, this was a choice that was a very purposeful decision. I've ran for Congress previously, had some success in that journey, which to me, this next executive of King County is going to have an indelible imprint on the direction for generations to come. So this is a chance for us to really have a soul-searching opportunity to serve the people and do that with common sense, with compassion. And that's something I've always tried to exhibit in my life and serving others. So this is just that next extension of service.
Most people have no idea what the King County executive is. So for most of you who are listening who goes, what the hell is a King County executive? Is that somebody's assistant? That is basically the mayor of King County. So that's what it is. And it's the person who's in charge of King County, and especially when it comes to the homeless crisis, to the crime crisis that we're having in our area. How are you going to address that?
Well, that is one of my top three issues. So homelessness in our city, in our county, we have basically increased our homeless population, and we've not done that in a way to help people. I think we've done that in a way to create bureaucracy and to make ourselves feel like we're making a difference. But when elected, I will establish a humane standard for removing basically the homeless encampments, and I will enforce those standards. Here's statistic-wise, it shows that Seattle has become the dead-end street for America's homeless population, and that's the one thing that we need to change. It's not surprising how King County has spent millions of dollars on single-occupancy apartments when we really should be spending more money tactically on congregate shelters, those that we can help to bring indoors, but also reduce the dangerous outdoor encampments.
Okay, so if we want to deal with that kind of stuff, one of the issues is the King County Regional Homeless Authority. You were talking about bureaucracy. This is a thing that has spent millions, if not billions of dollars and accomplished absolutely nothing. Do we have your pledge that you're going to shut that thing down and say no more money for this insanity?
Well, and that's where my heart is. I think I am a compassionate capitalist, and I am a fiscal conservative. I value people's hard-earned money, and what we've done, spending hundreds of millions of dollars over the last 6 years with Dow in the policy creation, we have a beacon that says, if you're homeless and you want services, come to Seattle because we'll give them to you. Come to King County. I'm going to change that perspective, and we're going to do that through compassion. So I will be eliminating that opportunity for those to come in just to suckle on the generosity of King County.
So one of the things we're wasting a ton of money on is the homeless crisis, but we're wasting money on a ton of other things we don't need. And meanwhile, property taxes are going up and the expenses, the cost of living is going up. In fact, just yesterday we found out that our area is has the highest impact of inflation. What are you going to do to address that?
Well, I think as a fiscal conservative, budget is our issue. We are spending more than we should. We have a balanced budget policy for the county itself, but that does not necessarily attribute to the inherent debt that we have that we're servicing. But we need to come back into the fiscal reality. We have to understand that there are love tos, there are need tos, and we cannot prioritize love tos over need tos. So we need to have a budget that will reflect the tenor that we want our county to exhibit to the residents.
Derek, if people want to learn more about you, if they want to donate, if they want to volunteer, what's the best way for them to do so?
You bet. It's just DerekChartrand.com. Very simple.
The website is DerekChartrand.com. You should support Derek for King County Executive because he is the only option for this audience here at KVI Nation. Derek, thank you so much for joining us today. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Ari. Have a great weekend.
You too. Always a pleasure. And I knew the second I brought up Sound Transit, the phones would light up with this next caller. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, how'd you like that video?
I thought it was one of the worst videos I've seen criticizing Sound Transit by an Idaho resident who cares about cannabis. And frankly, there's so many hot takes there. I don't know where to begin.
Well, hang on a second. Hang on a second there, Joe. If you care about cannabis, you should be right at home on the light rail. I smell it while I'm there all the time.
Well, actually, I do take the sexy light rail, and I don't smell the cannabis. I have a relative who does inhale, but he's in his late 70s, and the smell is so horrible, I know I'd remember it.
Okay,
So
well, let me break this down a second here, Joe. Whether you like Sound Transit, or whether you despise Sound Transit, or whether you're indifferent about Sound Transit, everything she said in the video is factually correct. In fact, I even stopped it. There's a lot more there. Yes, everything she said is correct. You may like Sound Transit, but everything she said is right.
Not everything. She was wrong about the car tabs initiative. It was a multiple subject
No, she literally called that out, Joe. It was, do you want $30 car tabs or not? And the Washington State Supreme Court, no, it wasn't, Joe. No, it wasn't. They claimed we were too dumb to understand it, and I bet you everybody's going to disagree with you on that. Give me something else you thought was actually wrong with what she said. How about the environmental stuff? Is there any way this is better for the environment than a bus that's an electric bus?
Yes, and let me explain why. A lot of people, including myself, have to make transit connections. So we need the trains to be reliable. We need them to be grade separated, and we need high-capacity transit. Bus lanes can only do so much. We haven't really seen a lot of BRT artistry, as I like to call it affectionately, in North America, done right. And this is why we decided to go the light rail route. Voters voted 3 times for this. It's a great system.
And then they voted for the $30 car tabs, Joe, but you haven't answered my question. I asked specifically, what's better for the environment, the electric buses or the train? And the answer is the electric buses, not the train. Do you know what it costs to boil? Do you know what it costs to melt steel? Do you know how they bring in the trains to Washington? By big diesel trucks. Do you know what powers those suckers? What powers those suckers is all the different things that Jay Inslee hates that's producing energy for us. And they are cutting down all these trees in the process, Joe.
Well, I don't really care about the trees unless you want to talk about density and having people live closer together.
So wait a second, Joe, that's not a she's wrong. That's a you disagree on priorities. So one more time, Joe, is there anything factually wrong she said in the video?
There's a lot of things I disagree with, but I think she did stretch the truth a little. from her Idaho base, but it's fine.
Okay,
How about we talk about-
so here we go, Joe. Now we have a different conversation, okay? And then I'm running out of time. But the conversation is whether you think sound transit is a good idea or whether you think sound transit is a bad idea. And we can have that discussion all day long. But the facts in the video are the facts in the video, and she's not wrong about those, though I do appreciate your passion, Joe. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, Joe's worried about people in Idaho. I'm worried about the people in California because now we have studies that tell us how many of them are coming here per day. It's not good news for us. We'll give you all the details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Instead of heading down the left coast, look like a whole bunch of people from California are heading up here. According to the Center Square, Californians are trading wildfires and income tax for rain and $154,000 tech salaries. Storage Cafe's report found that approximately 140 Californians move to Washington state every single day. Now, here's the thing, my friends. I think these numbers are on the way low side. Because how did Washington's population go up during the pandemic? By 1 million people. Over 10 years, a state like ours does not go up 1 million people in population. What's happening, we saw that map. I've shared it on social media before where you see the little ants leaving California. And you think to yourself, where's the big states that they're going? And you would figure Florida because it's a similar climate, just none of the California insanity. No, a lot of them are going to Texas, but most of them are coming right here to Washington because a lot of people who voted for California to become a disaster want to flee what they voted for, but go to a place with the same liberal ideology. So they are coming up here. Experts are citing economic opportunities in Washington as the main driver. Yeah, when Amazon and Microsoft and all those other companies leave, ain't going to be going much longer. Susan Curran, director of the University of Washington Center for Studies in Demography and Ecology, expects the migration of Californians to Washington will continue at the current pace due to climate issues in California, which will make portions of the state increasingly unlivable. Are the seas rising in California? Did I miss that? Of course, the UW person says that's what it is. Curran is now actually saying it has to do with taxes. The primary conditions associated with Washington attracting Californians is no state income tax, job growth, relatively cheaper housing market, but not by much, and quality of life conditions. Nearly 6,000 Los Angeles County residents made the move to King County in 2023, despite the fact that the average home in King County costs 4% more than in Los Angeles. Similarly, those relocating from San Diego to King County would pay about 2% more for a house in Washington. Wow, we're more expensive than California. Awesome. The Seattle metropolitan area can be appealing to Californians due to the city's presence as a tech hub. Seattle has more than 162,000 people working within the tech sector, which is over double San Diego's 58,000 tech workers. Workers can also make more up north. According to the report, tech workers earn more in Seattle metro area, with an average of $154,000 per year compared to $125,000 in Los Angeles and $129,000 in San Diego. With the flood of new residents, Curran notes that there are impacts to the region associated with this migration trend. Said housing supply is challenged by migration, but the job market is not. Yeah, that's not exactly true. The reason that the housing market is challenged is because they don't let you build anything around here. And if you can't build, you have a housing supply shortage. Hey, remember the guy who said, hey, we're going to do rent control, even though all the builders said, let's not do that? Yeah, that was Bob Ferguson. Bob Ferguson said, we're going to do rent control, right? Turd Ferguson said, we're going to do the rent control. Even though the builder said, you're disincentivizing us to build anything, because if you're going to have rent control, we can't make as much money, so why would we build anything here? There's no way Bob Ferguson comes close to the amount of housing units he promised unless he cooks the books. Plus, unless you actually deal with the zoning issues in cities like Seattle and King County, you're never going to fix the rest of this. In fact, we have a Turd Ferguson sighting today. According to 253, Ari, I just ran into Turd Ferguson as he was leaving Anthony's in Olympia. By the time I realized it was him, his security whisked him away. I asked the 3 young ladies at the entrance if that was the governor. Oh, yes, they gushed. I asked them, did you ask them about the taxes he rammed down our throat? They agreed it was wrong. Kind of shocked them, I think. He really is a tiny soy boy in person. Very good, 253. Very, very good. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Ed in Bremerton. Ed, what's going on?
Yeah, hi, Ari. You had a candidate on there running for King County Executive.
Yeah, Derek Chartrand. Derek Chartrand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I listened very, very closely to that interview. And when he was talking about homeless and getting them off the streets, I did not hear him say one thing about putting them into a high barrier shelter.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to tell you something. Derek is very available for feedback and stuff. So if you live in King County, then I recommend you actually reach out to Derek and ask him what his thoughts are on that. They're up on his website right now. But he's very available to emails and social media. So I just recommend you get in touch with him through his website.
Okay, well, actually, I'm over in Kitsap County.
Yeah.
But maybe some of your other listeners who live in the area would want to do that.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ed. Here's what you should do. You should say, I can't vote for you, but I live over here in Kitsap, or I live wherever I live. You live in Bremerton. I live out in Bremerton. And you know what? For me, this is something that seemed like it was missing, and you may want to incorporate it into the things you mentioned in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's,
Well,
by
thank
the
you.
way, that's very constructive feedback and very constructive criticism. And I think he's going to be on with Phil on Monday. So hopefully you get the message to him over the weekend and he can work that into his talking points.
Okay.
All
Very
right.
good. Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, no problem. Good call, Ed. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Yeah, guys, we welcome your feedback on candidates we have on the show. In fact, I get kind of disappointed when we don't get candidate feedback. When we have these candidates on, it's so you guys can tell us what you think of them. And maybe I got to be better in the future about saying, all right, guys, tell us what you think, and give out the phone number and give out the text line right after a candidate's on. Let us know what you think. I got this one from Becky in Enumclaw. Becky says Derek Chartrand sounded great. Fantastic. So, guys, you got feedback on candidates that we have on the show. Reach out to them. Reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you about it. When we come back, my friends, more of your calls, more of your texts, plus what's going on in Syria, and why is the mainstream media not talking about it? We'll give you all the horrifying details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder that we have a bonus giveaway today during Fake News Friday at 4:45. That's right, my friends. We are giving away tickets to an advanced screening of The Naked Gun starring Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson. And the best part is we're rolling with the KVI crew that night, so you get to see the movie with us. Added bonus. So make sure you're listening at 4:45 during Fake News Friday with Mike and young Zach. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Sheila in Tacoma. Sheila, what's going on?
Hi. Earlier you were talking about the people coming into the state, most of them coming in from the state of California. How much of those percentages are people that are not in our country legally?
That's a great question, and it wasn't mentioned in the article, but I'll do some digging. I think the problem is that to get the numbers of how many people are here illegally, you have to work backwards. So, for example, what you have to do is you have to find out how much we're spending on whatever thing they say they're spending on for illegal aliens. Like, for example, they said they were spending $150 million on Medicaid for illegal aliens. Well, then my question is, how many? That's my question, right? Is it you're spending $10 each? You're spending $1 million each? You're spending $100 each? How much are you spending per each one on Medicaid? How many are actually on Medicaid? The problem is they don't publish those numbers, so you kind of have to work backwards on it. But I'll tell you what, Sheila, I'll do some digging over the weekend and try to find a number for you, okay?
Perfect. One more question, if I may.
Yeah.
Because that also applies, if you've noticed over the last, and not just locally, about the food banks and how people are starving. And before 2020, I don't recall that many people, that the need was as much there.
So I'll tell you the last time I remember seeing the lines I see now at food banks. The last time I remember seeing that was back in 2008 during the housing crisis. That was the last time I remember seeing lines, and I drive past a lot of food banks. That's the last time I remember seeing it. You're right, where now I'm seeing them now, and I notice a particular type of person I see standing outside the food banks. It used to be, in my area, it was a lot of people from the Asian community back in 2008. That's not what I'm seeing anymore. That's not what I'm seeing at all. So I'll tell you what, Sheila, I'll do some digging into those numbers, and I'll try to get back with you next week, okay?
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Have a wonderful weekend, Sheila. Appreciate the call. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Becky in Enumclaw asked something similar. She says, how many people are homeless from other states because they've heard of Free Seattle, or as we call it, Free Addle? Yeah, that's a very, very good question. By the way, speaking of Seattle, I know a lot of you are getting your ballots this weekend. A lot of you may already have your ballots in hand. That's right, my friends. There is an election this weekend. Or rather, not this weekend. There is an election starting this weekend. It goes through August. We're talking about the primary for the 2025 election. Lots of local stuff is on the ballot. So some of you have started reaching out to me and asking me for my voter recommendations. We will do them on Monday because I have some research to do in some races. If you can't wait till then and have to mail in your ballots right away, our friends over at the King County GOP have their ballot list up right there, which we have shared at KVI.com. We did an interview with them. It's up at KVI.com. Right now, you can check it out. I'll make sure to share it on my social media over the weekend.
Are people already getting their ballots? Like I'm getting a lot of spam mail from local candidates. I've had a lot of folks door knock in my neighborhood, but I'm like, dude, I don't even got my voter's guide yet. I don't have my ballot. I don't have my voter's guide. And there's a couple of candidates in my area that I'm kind of excited about, but I'm just like, but who you running against?
Yeah.
And I kind of need my voter's guide to figure out who's who.
So that's part of the problem. I haven't seen my ballots yet. I haven't gotten my voter's guide yet. Yes, I can find it online and all that kind of stuff, but I find an easier time doing it holding it in my hands. That's a me thing. And Mike, you're going to laugh at that because you know I'm a computer guy. I almost never use paper. But I actually got to do some more research on some more candidates. Like today, this one was funny. I may have told you the story some time ago. The Seattle Ethics and Elections Committee reached out to me. And they said, Ari, we need somebody to write the statement against democracy vouchers. And you've been one of the people who's very much against democracy vouchers. Would you like to write the statement against? And I said, sure. I didn't know that meant I'm the one running the anti-democracy voucher campaign or something. So basically what's happened is since I wrote the statement against the democracy vouchers, and for those of you who are asking, what are democracy vouchers? Democracy vouchers, they tax you on your property taxes so they can give money to political candidates. And this thing is inherently flawed. For example, they spend millions of dollars to administer this program to give out millions of dollars. That's number one, aside from the fact that we're so unaffordable here that they're taxing you more money to give it to political candidates, but also people figured out how to game the system. I remind you of the candidate who ran for mayor just a couple of years ago, who got more democracy vouchers, hundreds of thousands of dollars worth, in fact, more than any other candidate, and he only managed to come in sixth. Plus, they claim the big lie was, oh, this is going to keep big money out of politics. We have more PAC money coming into these elections than ever before. So they asked me to come in and do the argument against the democracy vouchers. Now, what's funny is I walk in, and there's a green room, like the room that you go to before it's your turn to go record in the studio. And I walk in, and the person before me is finishing. And the person before me is wrapped in a Hamas keffiyeh. They had just done their messaging in the Hamas keffiyeh. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what does that have to do with any local races around here? Now, what's funny was I always wear my hostage pins or my hostage necklace. And for those of you watching over on the live stream over at Facebook, Rumble, over on X, and all the other platforms, you can see I'm wearing my hostage necklace today. But I was planning on tucking it away because it's not relevant to the issue at hand, and I was going to take my pin off. But then I see the Hamas keffiyeh, and I get a little, I do a me, right? I get mad, I do a me. So what happens? They say to me, in that moment where I'm thinking this in my head, they say, Ari, would you mind taking off all your pins? We have a no-pin policy here. And I say, a no-pin policy, but you could wear the Hamas keffiyeh? And they said, well, Ari, truth be told, we have a policy against pins. We don't have a policy against scarves. It's not their fault. I don't want to blame the ethics people. But at the same time, somebody's walking in there, and then when I looked up who the candidate was, her name is Jeannie Chun. She's actually running for my district. She's running in my district. So you're running in the largest Jewish community in Washington, and you think the way to convince them to vote is by wearing a Hamas keffiyeh? The other funny thing is it's nowhere part of her platform, any of this stuff. She's just doing it to virtue signal to the left, which is beyond bonkers crazy.
I got one quick thing before we go to Fake News Friday and our special Naked Gun contest. I've heard from folks on both the phone line and the text line. Folks have been getting their ballots and voters' guides today. So it's probably in this afternoon's mail, which means for some, it'll probably be this afternoon. If not, it'll be throughout the weekend. At the very least, folks will have them first part of next week. So just,
excellent.
I'm sure when you and I both go home today, there's probably going to be some voter guides and or ballots waiting for us.
Excellent. And I'll tell you guys, on Monday, you will have all my picks. I will spend the weekend working on it so that you will have it on Monday. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. Fake News Friday is up next. Time to put a smile on your face heading into the weekend and your chance to win tickets to an advanced screening of The Naked Gun. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
News.
With young Zach.
Educate yourself, you fool.
On the Ari Hoffman Show. Talk Radio 570 KVI.
Oh, Wall Street Journal, you broke my heart by printing actual fake news. Good thing we got young Zach to tell us the real fact from fiction. Zach, what do you got for us?
Well, actually, I'm going to start with some real news, I think. I saw this headline in CNN. There's updated mammogram regulations on breast density. Here to share his findings, Big Mike.
Yes. See also our review of the Jurassic World movie, where I think I said, and let me make sure I got the quote correctly, because I've been misquoted on this. It's like, despite the...
Yes, HR misquoted you.
A profoundly snug shirt that's occasionally wet still can't save that movie. Density. Also, I'm going to start using that term around the office. Density.
No.
You are my density.
Very good.
Well, that's amazing.
Very good. Now that we lost every female listener of the show, Zach, what else you got?
Bold to assume you had him. On to the Babylon Bee. Israel levels Sesame Street with targeted airstrikes.
I like that one a lot.
And Republicans celebrate $9 billion in spending cuts after passing bill that adds $3 trillion to national debt.
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
I like that one, too.
Yeah, I didn't like that one.
No, I mean... Good.
Y'all be dead, and it'll be my debt to deal with. That's fine.
Oh, please. You're talking about your great-great-grandkids, if that.
That's what everyone says about their great-great-grandkids. One of these days it catches up to you.
Yes.
The Wall Street Journal reveals Trump once wrote boobs on calculator and showed it to Epstein.
Who didn't?
Density.
Who didn't? Yes.
Thick.
Nope.
What else you got, Zach?
Please clap.
I don't know. Apologies.
I mean,
Apologies is what
they didn't call it the big, beautiful bill for nothing.
No.
My only regret is that there was only one instead of two big, beautiful bills. Big, thick, jiggly, beautiful bills. The biggest you'd ever seen. Dense. Density.
I think you broke both of us today.
I'd like to extend the sincerest apologies to
My wife.
Mine too, while you're at it.
Yes.
Mike. Anything you'd like to get off your chest?
Join me this weekend out on the high seas in the motor boat.
Oh, man.
The motor boat.
Keeping tally, I got 2 apologies to our wives and one double D down.
Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go.
I love women.
What else you got, Zach?
We're going to milk that for all we can.
Oh, my God.
I'll cut that out.
Cut my life into pieces. This is my last resort.
God love you. What am I talking about?
Back to the Babylon Bee. The resistance upset as government gets smaller. Less dense.
Less dense, yes.
Last one from the Babylon Bee.
Still juicy, though.
Oh, no. Long line for bathroom as there's only one fire hydrant outside the furry convention.
Oh.
Ew.
Yeah, that's kind of gross.
That's where the line is?
Yeah, today, yeah.
Golly. This one from the Hard Times, I think we'll be fine with. There's no such thing as male loneliness epidemic, says man holding a painted volleyball.
Oh, very good.
Volleyball's very round.
No.
And
no.
dense.
Get your mind out of the gutter today.
It's already there. It just reminds me of the last time we had Chairman Walsh on. We were talking to Jim Walsh
I don't think Jim Walsh wants a part of this at all.
About the motor voter law, which reminds me about the trip I'm going to take on my boat this weekend. With a couple big, beautiful bills and a couple volleyballs.
Oh, dear.
While you're at it, you can send your angry emails to Mike at KVI.com. That's MIKE at KVI.com. Or you can follow me on X at Mike on KVI.
Boy, have you lost your mind, because I'll help you find it.
Someone, please. Yes.
What else you got, Zach?
I'll try to end on this. It's from The Onion. Rising cost of living forcing...
onions kind of round also. Bulbous, you might even say.
Oh, dear.
Bulbous.
Oh, dear.
Dense. Thick. Sprightly, even. You might even say perky.
Oh, dear. All right.
I'm done.
You're done. He's just
No, we're going to get one quick
throw
too.
in the towel.
From The Onion, rising cost of living forcing more Buddhists to continue working years in reincarnation.
Oh, very clever. Very clever. Well, thank you, Zach.
Buddhists.
But
the stomach of Buddha.
Yeah.
That's not where that was going.
So what's going on this weekend aside from my motor voter laws out on the high seas?
So lots going on this weekend. KVI is going to be out at the King County Fair this weekend. In fact,
what?
Yeah, you get to meet Zach and Mike out at the King County Fair. It's the 162nd year of the King County Fair. It started the same summer as the Battle of Gettysburg. During the Civil War, it's the longest running fair west of the Mississippi. There's scones with jam and, of course, cotton candy and great weather. Come on out to Enumclaw. It's going to be lots of fun for kids and the family. Plus, KVI is going to be out there on Saturday. Mike and Zach will be out there, so you get to say hi to them.
Yeah, I think Phil's coming out too, for the mid shift.
Yeah, Phil's going to be there starting at 2 o'clock tomorrow.
Oh, very cool.
Awesome.
Good.
So it'll be a lot
2
of
to
fun.
6.
Yeah, a lot of fun. You're going to have carnival rides, free entertainment, livestock shopping, saddle up for heart-pounding action, and edge of your seat excitement. For more information, go to kvi.com. Also, today we have a special bonus giveaway.
Yeah!
That's right, my friends. You get to join all of us and some relatives of mine at an advanced screening of The Naked Gun starring Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson.
Pamela Anderson.
Oh, no.
See, my friends, we've arrived at a theme.
Indeed we have. Lieutenant Frank Drebin Jr. follows his father's footsteps in The Naked Gun. That's right, my friends. I'm excited for this movie. The Naked Gun is only in theaters on August 1st. All you have to do, in order to win 2 tickets to an advanced screening of The Naked Gun with the KVI crew, is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win 2 tickets to an advanced screening of The Naked Gun with the crew from KVI. Phone lines are
nice
open now.
set of tickets.
Yes. Yes, it is a nice set of tickets.
Dense.
Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Don't forget to catch Mike, Phil, and Zach out at the King County Fair this weekend. And listen to Zach and Phil during the morning ride, weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. When we come back, my friends, your final hour free for all your calls, your texts, your stories, plus so much more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Congratulations to Dan in Bonnie Lake. You're going home with a pair of tickets to an advanced screening of The Naked Gun. Your next chance to win is coming up at 5:45 during our Good News giveaway. Last night, somebody asked me, and they said, Ari, are you going to be endorsing Bruce Harrell for mayor of Seattle? And I said, no way in hell. And they said, does that mean you're endorsing Katie Wilson, the socialist who's running against him? I said, of course not. And they said, well, then who are you voting for in the mayor's race? And I said, I was thinking about my dead grandfather. He's better than either of them, even on his worst day. Because the truth is, we don't have any options in the mayor's race. We really don't. Somebody said, but Ari, think about it this way. If Katie Wilson is or whatever her name is, if she's a full-on socialist, she's going to be anti-Semitic and she's going to give in to the Hamasniks all the time. And I said, and the difference is what? Exactly. Bruce Harrell has been the mayor for 3.5 years, almost 4 years at this point. Is Seattle better off now than when he first took office? Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And let us know if you think Seattle's better or worse off, because I think it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. So instead of BLM and Antifa, we've got the Hamasniks, who are the same people. We've got the socialists. We've got the radical activists. I don't see a difference. Seattle Police Department is still significantly down from where it needs to be. You're still short about 700 officers. They claim crime has gone down. We had Mike Solon on earlier this week. I don't see crime going down. So if you ask me who I'm voting for in the mayor's race, I don't see a difference. At least Wilson, or whatever her name is, at least she's a socialist who says, I'm a socialist. Bruce Harrell is trying to be a socialist because he's worried about losing an election to a socialist. So he's going to be more lefty, loony, toony is what's going to happen. Like, I need that? I got a public disclosure request back today. I was filing for some stuff. Apparently there's a blacklist at City Hall for me and other names you know in the biz, like Brandy and Jonathan Cho, where apparently they won't respond to our requests for comment. And I got back another installment of this request today. And in the installment, I actually see that some of the mayor's staff is talking about how they're having issues with homeless people with waving around guns, and they're considering getting their own guns, and then they were very demeaning to our police department, to our police officers. That's how they talk. The same people who talk about taking away our guns are talking about having guns. I'd rather you be honest about who you are. I'd rather you admit that the things we see happening on the streets are actually happening because you're discussing them behind closed doors. And something that really set me off was they were talking about me in a different context, though. They were talking about me, what should we say in case Hoffman does X, in case Hoffman does Y? And they're just spinning out lies. You think things are better under Bruce Harrell? They're not. They're not. And by the way, it seems like he's gone completely back to his 2019 Seattle City Council president of giant game of whack-a-mole. We're not actually going to deal with the homeless crisis. We're not actually going to deal with the crime. We're not actually going to deal with the drugs. We're just going to bounce them from place to place to place. Mike has sent me multiple reports this week. West Seattle, Beacon Hill, all over the place. They're all saying the exact same thing. The homeless came back. They were gone, and now they came back. What people are worried about is they're being swept out of the downtown corridor, which I don't see any evidence of, by the way, and they're being pushed to other areas of Seattle. They're not actually dealing with any of this. Instead, they're just making it somebody else's problem. And now Bruce Harrell is worried that the left is going to criticize him for sweeping homeless people, so he just doesn't deal with it at all. But if you thought things were bad when Bruce Harrell was on the Seattle City Council, tell me if this name means anything to you or rings any bells for a minute. So the finalists have been named for the District 5 position of Seattle City Council. Now, they had 22 candidates who applied. They're filling a vacancy because Kathy Moore resigned due to health and personal reasons. So they have to fill in somebody to finish out her term. One of the candidates they mentioned is Deborah Juarez.
Now, that's a name I've not heard in a long time. A long time.
So Deborah Juarez was on the Seattle City Council. And she was looked at as one of the more moderates on the council, which means she's a far-left loony, but she draws the line at, well, where does she actually draw the line? She voted for everything bad. Yeah, she put up a fight a little bit about defunding the police, but not really. She was a terrible council member, an absolutely terrible council member. In fact, Bruce Harrell and Deborah Juarez are the reason I'm in politics. Deborah Juarez, her district, is where the Jewish cemeteries were. And when she refused to do anything about the homeless people who were occupying the Jewish cemeteries, that got me involved in politics. Bruce Harrell was a representative for the Jewish district. He refused to do anything about it. My God, it's like history is repeating itself. I've got these two morons going to be back in power again. My God, we've come all the way full circle back to 2019. You're telling me out of the 800,000 people that live in Seattle, the best you can come up with is Wilson or Harrell, and the best you can come up with for District 5 is Deborah Juarez? You remember this one? I typed in Deborah Juarez because I know I used to post about the awful things she did all the time. You know the first thing that popped up? The first thing. She loved the Seattle Storm. Loved them. Went to all the games. There was a game when people were still wearing masks at the height of the pandemic. She put one on when her face popped up on the Jumbotron, and then the second it was done, she took it off. And she's hugging people. She's sitting on the floor, courtside. Everybody else wearing masks, not her. And she's one of the people who pushed the mandates. So, rules for thee, but not for me. That's who you want back in office? Really? I guess she's more savvy with scoreboards than, CEOs of tech industry or whatever, and their mistresses or whatever. But at the same time, you want this incompetent buffoon? You want this far leftist back on the Seattle City Council? This is the best you can come up with? This is a lack of leadership, by the way. And I know Sarah Nelson is on the ballot, and I know people want to elect Sarah Nelson, and I know people go, well, she's better than the alternative. I don't think I'm voting for Sarah Nelson. Why? Because I've seen the real side of Sarah Nelson. A few weeks ago, there was an event in a park where a group of pro-Israel people were marching. They do it every single weekend, and Sarah Nelson and one of her staffers came up. And I took some video of it because Sarah Nelson was kind enough to come. But her staffer said to me, would you mind not posting that video? You're here! And her message was very, very good. Her message was, hey, the Seattle City Council doesn't get involved in international politics. We got to stay in our lane. Very fair, by the way. And her handler didn't want me to post it. And then she didn't want me to post the video of it. First of all, would you tell any other journalist something like that? Would you ask any other journalist something like that? But what are you afraid of? You afraid the left is going to find out? You've said this stuff publicly before. What are you worried about? That's a lack of courage. That is a lack of courage. And I have no respect for people with a lack of courage of their convictions. I have more respect for somebody like Kashama Sawant, who may be completely crazy and may hate Jews and may hate all that, but at least she's got the courage of her conviction. She is who she is. She is that crazy Marxist socialist lunatic. Unfortunately, there's a lack of courage in politics at all anymore. There really is. I'm looking at the King County Republicans, King County GOP voters guide right now. And they did a very good job with this. I said so when we had their chair on the show. They did a very good job with this. But I'm looking at this and I go, I don't know who most of you people are. I joked that my voters guide this year would be the meh, this is who we're going to go with. Do you think that the Yankees just say, who wants to do tryout? We'll do open tryouts. No, they're the Yankees. They go recruiting. I know everybody wants to fight with each other about who's the most America first around here, who's the most Trumpy of the Trumpiest around here. I don't care about that. I care about the fact that I don't know who any of these people are, and I do this for a living. I do this for a living, and I've never heard of most of these people who are on their guides. And that goes for the people who they think are the best choice, who are these people who are running against the socialist crazies. I'm looking at this list and I go, what'd you do? Just let anybody apply to run? And unfortunately, that's where we're at. I don't see any real candidate development. Look, we had Derek Chartrand for King County Executive. I like Derek. He's a friend. I'm going to back Derek. Chad Magandaz. He's running for position. We like Chad. We're going to support Chad. Rachel Savage, running for City of Seattle, council position number 8. We're going to back Rachel Savage. We like Rachel Savage. But I'm looking at the rest of these people, and I just go, who? It's like Star-Lord. I'm Star-Lord, man. Who? And unfortunately, that's the problem around here. That's the problem. So what are we doing? Dredging up people like Deborah Juarez, who sucked at the first place? That's what we're doing? Really, guys? This is who we're getting to run our city? We don't have enough problems? We're going to bring back the old problems with it, too? Tell you what. We'll open up the phone lines. Open up the text. If you are a candidate running for office, call the show and make your case. Call the show and make your case, especially if you're one of these people I haven't heard of yet. You want to know why I haven't invited you on the show? Because I don't know who you are. And I'm not saying that to be egotistical. Mike knows this. We have everybody on the show if they're a candidate. We are very open about that. But unfortunately, I don't know who any of these people are, so I'm not going to reach out and say, hey, you want to come on the show? Phone lines are open now, 206-421-5757. If you are a candidate running for office, 206-421-5757. Give us a call. I'm more than happy to hear what you have to say. This one from the 206. Seattle is no better under Bruce Harrell. In fact, it's a little bit worse. The state is way too liberal, and with so many people from California moving here, we are not in a good position at all. You get what you vote for. Garbage in, garbage out. Yeah, you're not wrong. This one here from David. Good afternoon, Ari. Your bullet points on your broadcast today are exactly on point. These are all reasons why I'm remodeling my home as we speak and buying 5 acres in southern Idaho. These people get what they voted for. Nothing more, nothing less. I really hate to say this, but this place is no longer worth the fight. By the end of the next month, I'll be living near Boise, Idaho. Good luck, my friend. I wish you and your family all of God's blessings. Just remember to download the KVI app when you go so you can listen to us anytime, anywhere. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Armin out of Maury Island. Armin, what's up?
Hey, Ari, I was telling Big Mike about the ballots. You were talking about the ballots. My wife, ballots arrived today for my wife and me, and I was telling Big Mike, we even got a third one for a neighbor.
Really? Did the neighbor get it? It just go in the wrong mailbox, or is it at your address?
It was in the wrong mailbox, so I just went down the road and put it in there.
Okay, so that's not as scandalous.
Anyway,
you know what happens, Armin?
today,
Every single time there's an election, people go, voter fraud, voter fraud, voter fraud. Guys, you got to have actual proof of that. When you get like 30 ballots in your inbox or something like that, send me that kind of stuff. I'm more than happy to check it out.
Yeah, but I'm just letting you know, and the listeners know that ballots are arriving. They're arriving today, presumably.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Armin. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And on your Seattle ballot, you're going to have proposition number 1, which is for the Democracy Voucher Program. And as I said before, the Democracy Voucher Program is a huge failure. It was marketed to us under keep big money out of politics. Do you remember a candidate for mayor named Andrew Grant Houston? I'm going back to an article that was written in 2021 by the Post Millennial. He managed to get more people to give him money through Seattle's Democracy Voucher Program than actually vote for him. In the process, raising many red flags. Since the start of the campaign, Houston was unlikely to advance to the general election. Though many candidates run with no chance of winning, few do so while bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxpayer funds. In 2015, Seattle voters approved a property tax of $3 million to fund the Democracy Voucher Program for 10 years. The Democracy Voucher Program gives Seattle voters $100 and $25 vouchers to give out to donate to the campaign of their choice. Houston's campaign gathered more vouchers by far than any other campaign, almost 14,000 vouchers worth $346,325, yet only managed to finish 6th place with 4,535 votes. That's 2.62% of the total vote. He also had more than 5,000 donors, but is unlikely to poll as many votes as donors. His campaign doesn't seem to have spent that much on trying to get elected. Receipts for the campaign show a lot of meals, and purchases for non-related campaign items like headphones. Over $100,000 of the money went to Prism Washington, a.k.a. Prism West, a consulting firm with a history of representing and promoting activist socialist candidates, such as socialist Seattle City Council member Tammy Morales, who advocated for riots during last summer's unrest. Also remember that Andrew Grant Houston, wasn't he the one who wasn't paying his rent, even though he was working for the Seattle City Council at the time? But because there was a freeze on rent during COVID, he decided he's not going to pay for it anymore. Houston's campaign focused on door-to-door canvassing to harvest the vouchers and employed an unusually large number of staffers, given the large amount of spending on consultants. The staffers were also unionized. His campaign spending disclosures showed roughly $70,000 spent on online advertising, mailers, and other traditional voter outreach. No money was spent on TV or other media. Former Seattle City Council President Bruce Harrell and current Council President Lorena Gonzalez, remember this article was written in 2021, who are in the top two spots to advance to the November general election, did not pay anything close to that to their consultants. To put things in perspective, Gonzalez raised $276,475 in voucher funds, spent more than $82,000 on TV, almost $60,000 on polls, and approximately $50,000 on direct mailers. Her consulting costs were a mere $24,000. Harrell, who was on track to finish first in the primary, took in $157,725 in voucher funds. Based on the current vote totals, Houston spent $104.66 of voucher money per vote. Gonzalez spent $7, and Harrell spent just $3. Do you think this is a program that is worth continuing to fund? It doesn't seem like it is at all. Not at all. And yet people are going to vote for this stupidity. So as I mentioned earlier, the Seattle Election and Ethics Committee reached out to me and said, would you mind writing some kind of statement against the democracy vouchers? I did. The hardest thing for me as a talk radio host is condensing my thoughts into just like 3 paragraphs. I think I got like 200 words or something like that, Mike. That's really hard for me. Really, really hard for me, but I did it. And KUOW, by the way, reached out. Very nice of them. They're going to have me on to debate the other side. And the Seattle Times actually asked me to have a little discussion with them. So both of those things will be coming out. At the end of the day, this thing is a flawed program. And it's just taking more of our money in a city that's already unaffordable. You want that money going to political campaigns? And I would argue it means more to somebody who's on low income to give their money to a political candidate. So, for example, is it easier for you to give money that was given to you by the government, that was stolen from you by the government, I would argue, but that was given to you by the government that just comes in the mail or give it? Or when you're watching every single penny and you go, I really believe in this person. I'm going to give him this extra $20 that I have, even though I can't afford gas and even though I can't afford groceries. That means a lot more, rather than gift certificates that come in the mail as part of this large pot, which is just a slush fund, basically, for politicians. Why do you want to give it to them? Man, I really hope they send some politician to debate me, because the first question is going to be, and how much money did you bring in democracy vouchers? That's the very first question. Gee, I wonder why you want the democracy voucher program. That's really the only question that matters. So you people can get elected, right? Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, what the hell is going on in Syria? And why is the mainstream media not covering it all? And Barack Obama was interfering in elections? Shock, shock. We'll give you all that plus a whole lot more when we come back. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on The Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to the Washington State Fair. That's right, my friends. Yet another reason to always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Also, a reminder that tomorrow you can see Mike and Phil and Zach at the King County Fair out at the Enumclaw Expo Center. Get all the details over at the events page at kvi.com. I was also told, by the way, I found this out yesterday, that Jim Walsh, chair of the Washington GOP, has those initiative forms for you to sign to make sure that we can get voter ID as a requirement here in Washington. Now, I know there's going to be people with these forms out at Summerfest in Lakewood tomorrow between 11 and 6. I just reached out to the GOP to find out if they're going to have anybody out at the King County Fair, which I assume they will, but I don't want to say that without knowing for sure. So that way you can see Mike, you can see Phil, you can see Zach, and you can sign the initiatives to make sure that we get voter ID on the ballot. So I'm going to reach out to them, and if they get back to me before the show's over, I'll make sure to mention it to everybody. Something else that you may not know about is what's going on in Syria. And I know a lot of you are thinking, what the hell does Syria have to do with me? Why should I even care at all? Because it once again shows the media's extreme bias. Here's what's going on in Syria. Earlier this week, militia groups in Syria decide to target the Druze, the Syrian Druze, not Jews, Druze community. The Druze are an offshoot of Islam, specifically from Ismaili Shia Islam. Now, for those of you who are Bible studiers, a lot of people think they are actually the descendants of Yitro of Jethro, who was Moses' father-in-law. The new Syrian regime moved forces to join the militias, but claimed they were there to keep the peace, and instead they're massacring people. The Israeli Druze asked Israel to intervene to protect the Syrian Druze. Prime Minister Netanyahu pledged that the IDF will protect the Syrian Druze, and they've been launching airstrikes on Syria. You don't hear about this in the news because Israel is trying to stop the genocide of the Syrian Druze. Is the UN doing anything? I haven't seen the UN issue anything. No, it's just, we hate Israel because there's a genocide in Gaza. Israel is literally trying to stop a genocide from happening in Syria, and the media isn't covering it. Not at all. You literally have these Syrian militia groups throwing people off roofs, raping people, torturing people. The worst stuff we saw on October 7th is happening in Syria right now. And the mainstream media isn't covering it. Where's Amnesty International? Where's all these quote-unquote civil rights, human rights groups? Where's the UN? Oh, no Jews, no news. Where's the mainstream media? Almost nobody is covering this. Not at all. Now, the U.S. has condemned all this, and several Arab states have condemned it too. But it's Israel that's fighting Syria right now, trying to stop a genocide. And you don't hear anything about this in the news. The Druze community in Israel is very, very nationalist, very, very patriotic. They serve in the IDF. They serve in the Knesset. They have full voting rights, you name it. So when they ask Israel, hey, they're killing our brothers and sisters over there, Israel, of course, says, yes, we're going to step up and do something about it. You haven't seen the media. Why aren't they covering it? These same groups that go, hey, Hamas just issued a press release saying 10,000 people died in one missile strike on a hospital. The hospital's still there, but we'll run with it. Yeah, crazy, crazy stuff. They're not even talking about this. And the images coming out of Syria are absolutely horrific. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Carol in Kirkland. Carol, what's up?
Hi, I am really curious. A lot of the city council races have candidates on them that there's not all of the names are not from here. In other words, they're not typical, American style type names, right? So they're very, you get my point. So my issue is, and my question is, the city council races, do they have to be U.S. citizens?
So you have to be a citizen to be in the race and to vote, but we know how reliable that is around here.
So are you saying that if we ask, are you a citizen, we should be able to easily ask for proof. That's basic now.
Well, here's the
So you're
thing.
saying
I
that
don't remember. It's been a really, really, really long time since I ran for office, and I don't remember if citizenship is on there as a requirement. I would assume it is, but you have to give in all your tax records and everything else. Now, just because somebody has a name that they're from somewhere else, they could have immigrated here. But think about this for a second. We have a massive,
I get that.
right? We have a massive Somalian population in South Seattle. And a lot of those names aren't going to sound like anything. And they immigrated here illegally. They absolutely did. But the question is, whose values did they bring with them? Like this guy running in Minnesota for mayor who says, he wants to make Somalia great, or Ilhan Omar, or any of that kind of stuff. Your question shouldn't be whether or not you're a citizen. Of course, it's a legit question. Your question is, who are you trying to benefit here? And when they start spewing that socialist nonsense, that should be the red flag for you.
Well, it is. I just thought that if you're going to be a state rep, like a representative, you have to be a U.S. citizen. I'm assuming in the state of Washington.
Well, for any of these jobs, you have to be a U.S. citizen. The question is anybody checking?
All right. Okay. So we need to check.
That's the thing. Now, mind you, I think that what you should do is reach out to ethics, to the elections and ethics people. And for wherever it is that you live. So you live in Kirkland, you reach out to your county elections,
right,
and you say, excuse me, how do you verify citizenship of candidates? And I would love to know what they say in response. If you get it, do it in email so you have everything in writing, but reach out to them and find out and send me a response, ARI@kvi.com, okay?
Will do. Thank you.
No problem whatsoever. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Looks like, yes, Trump has officially sued Rupert Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal for running that report about the birthday card with Epstein. Okay, guys, that was a huge nothing burger. Was it worth it? Was it really worth it? You want to end up like CBS that's paying all that money to Trump? You want to end up like Paramount? You want to end up like CNN? This was really, really dumb. I mean, it's kind of sad to see how far the Wall Street Journal has fallen. I used to love the Wall Street Journal. Just not great anymore. Hey, do they have to report on their own lawsuit? That's going to be kind of fun to watch. When we come back, my friends, Lars will be unleashed after a short hiatus. Lars Larson will be joining us to talk about the issues of the day we might have missed. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. After a short hiatus, thanks to America's birthday and everybody being out of town and some conflicts of my own, we have our friend Lars Larson back to be unleashed yet again. Lars, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. In fact, I'm heading into a little holiday weekend and going to go out to the farm and get a little work done.
That's awesome. Sounds exhausting. I like sitting on my butt when I'm not here. But anyway,
that's a plan.
I saw that you're as excited about this as I am, as this new initiative trying to get voter ID required in Washington state. I also saw that you saw, like I did, that Scott Pressler is even interested in this. What do you think?
I think it's a great idea, and the only thing I worry about is they'll figure out some way to say it violates the single subject rule. But if the people of the state of Washington, and I'm one of those people who votes in Washington, I want to see voter ID. I want to see proof of citizenship. And in fact, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Oregon has had its problems, so let's compare it to Washington. They found almost 2,000 foreign nationals registered to vote, and they only looked at about 1/3 of all the registered voters, and so they're just not going to look at the other 2/3 for the next couple of years. Then they spent $150,000, believe it or not, and they said, we're going to prove to you that this isn't a big problem. So out of 3 million registered voters, they sampled 35, not 3,500, not 350, 35 voters. You know what they found? They found 1 out of 35 was registered as a citizen, but there was no proof that the person had shown anything to indicate they're a citizen, which would be passport, birth certificate. There are a number of ways to do it. And you say, well, that sounds like not much. Well, Ari, I graduated from Tillamook High School. I can do math. That's 3%. Do you know what 3% of 3 million people is? It's 90,000 voters.
Yeah.
And so you say, hold on. So your sample, and the only sample they pulled was that 35. And I think this was the Democrats who run the state of Oregon saying, we're going to roll the dice. What are the chances that when they sample 35 voters at random, for which they paid $150,000, that they're going to find any of them? They'll all appear to be citizens with proof and all that. Problem is they found 3% or not. And I think that's indicative of a bigger problem. It's like when you go to the doctor and they do a blood sample and they say, we think we found something that indicates cancer. Do they go back and do another test, a broader test, to say, what is it we found? No. If you're Democrats, you say, that was plenty. We don't need to look any further. That's fairly good proof that what they've found is contamination of the voter rolls with literally tens of thousands of foreign nationals. If that same thing is not happening in Washington, I'd be amazed, because Washington and Oregon are relatively comparable, both motor voter, both vote by mail, both all of these other procedures. I don't see any reason to believe that Washington state is better at checking citizenship than Oregon is, unless you know of a difference between the two states.
I know it's infinitely worse. I mean, for example, my son, and he's a legal U.S. citizen, right? He was born here in the United States, and both his parents are citizens. When he registered to vote, they required no ID whatsoever. He could just do it online. And that's crazy to me that you could just do that. So how many people are registered to vote? And you think about the problems we had with Dino Rossi's election, where he won, and then they kept counting and counting and counting until they found a winner. Now they don't need to do that anymore because they can win by such huge margins by playing these kind of games. And we've seen that there have been illegals voting in our elections. We caught them earlier this year, and Steve Hobbs and the law enforcement decided not to do anything about it.
Did you see what they caught just this week? It was an indictment where they indicted some people who it happened in both Georgia and Minnesota. In Minnesota, they rented a hotel room and they sat down and they made up phony voter registrations, mailed the paperwork in. It got caught in that case at the voting office, and they said these are fake. These are fake, and that's the mechanism they're using. And I know that every time we brought this up, people say, well, no, that's not really, it may affect a few hundred votes, but not enough to affect an election. Well, in Oregon, if you find 90,000 fraudulent registrations, if that's what the sample shows, the closest recent governor's election was Chris Dudley, the former Blazer, who ran. He lost by 22,000 votes, and he was running against all the money and the unions and the Democrats, and he only lost by 22,000. If you can access tens of thousands of phony registrations where you absolutely control who those votes are cast for. You control where they're registered, what their signature is, what their address is. That means if you don't have chain of custody on a ballot, then you don't know who's voting.
Which is also something else here, is that a couple hundred votes made all the difference with Dino Rossi. So the question is, if it made all the difference then, why wouldn't it make the difference now in how many other elections? Plus, you have these ballots that keep coming in, and you can always have somebody claim ignorance because it's a box that you check. Would you also like to be registered to vote? A lot of times it's done automatically. They can just claim, oh, I didn't know what that was. Sorry, whoops. And they'll just let you off the hook.
And do you know where they get plausible deniability? What they do is they say, okay, we've got plausible deniability because we didn't know that we were registered wrong or something like that. And the end result is they can deny it. And then I'll give you this. In Clark County, Washington, a woman was caught who had fraudulently registered. She was a non-citizen. She admitted to the investigators, I am a non-citizen. She admitted that she had cast ballots, and she said she planned to cast more ballots. And you think, okay, you've admitted to the crime. What did prosecutor Tony Golick do? Golick said, I'm not going to pursue charges. She admitted she committed a crime.
Yeah, that's
She admitted
basically
it.
what happened
And
here.
you think you've admitted to committing a crime. We've got it documented that you did commit a crime, and we're not going to prosecute you. What better message do you need than to say, when the prosecutor, and this is Tony Golick, Clark County prosecutor, when he catches you doing it, when he has all the documentation, when he has your confession, at that point, and then we're not going to prosecute you. And it wasn't because she said, and I plan to vote again. And she's a foreign national.
Crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy stuff. If you want to know why we need these initiatives so bad, this is why. Lars Larson, you can catch a show every single weekday from 12 to 3 right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Lars, have a wonderful weekend at the farm, my friend.
Hey, thank you, buddy. Take care.
Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to the Washington State Fair. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode, another amazing week of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway or our good news headlines, got an announcement for you. Just a reminder that tomorrow you can come out and join KVI at the King County Fair. It's the 162nd year of the King County Fair. It started the same summer as the Battle of Gettysburg during the Civil War. It's the longest running fair west of the Mississippi. There's scones with jam and cotton candy, and it's going to be great weather. Come on out to Enumclaw. It's a lot of fun for the kids and the family. King County Fair is at the Enumclaw Expo Center with carnival rides, free entertainment, livestock, and shopping. Saddle up for heart-pounding action and edge-of-your-seat excitement. Watch fearless cowboys take on the toughest bulls and broncs in town. Grab your boots. Get your tickets now for the King County Fair. More information at kvi.com. That's kvi.com. Don't forget, Zach, Mike, and Phil will be out there tomorrow. So head on over to the KVI booth, get some free stuff, including an American flag, plus so much more. Get to meet the voices you listen to and trust every single day, and have a great time out at the King County Fair. Remember, get all the details at kvi.com. That's kvi.com. Have you guys been following this mess with the CEO of Astronomer and his alleged mistress, who is head of the HR department? The memes are incredible if you haven't seen them. They got caught on a kiss cam, which panned on over to them at a Coldplay concert, and you even had the lead singer of Coldplay look up at them and go, whoa, why are they running away from the camera? Are they having an affair or something? Pretty bad. Babylon Bee's got this headline: David and Batsheva caught on kiss cam at concert. These are great. These are great. The one I like the most is Coldplay hasn't had a single in years, but last night they managed to make 2 of them. Oh, no, you didn't. Oh, no. No. Yes, if you haven't seen the memes, that's right. They are on social media, so go check them out. Pretty entertaining. Got this story here from our neck of the woods. Pierce County Plumbing and Remodel Company discovered swarms of bees inside the walls of a historic 1930s home in Puyallup. Beekeeper Michael A. Perino removed at least 350,000 bees from the house over 2 visits. The entrance has been sealed to prevent further bee infestation, with some stragglers remaining. Quote, most people didn't know there was a home in here, said Joe Bowers, owner of the Bowers Plumbing and Remodel. He says, pretty crazy. You could hear in the room, you could hear them humming in the walls, you could feel the heat. His company was working in a Puyallup house when they found the bees after bees after bees. They called Pernino, who's a beekeeper and a contractor, to rehome the bees. Oh, is that the appropriate terminology? How about rehive the bees? It's just loaded with comb and brood, which are young bees. He estimates they pulled out at least 300,000 bees. They've got plenty of room. These old houses, they have no insulation in them, and usually there's a lot of room they can find a place in, and they're going to build. Bees were in the walls and the ceiling, but that was back in July. About a week and a half ago, the bees were back. He told Fox 13 he pulled out another 50,000 bees. And on Thursday, they were there as he sealed up the entrance. He says, we've got all the bees pretty much out of there. There's some stragglers left behind. He said the previous owners were older and had lived in the house for 60 years. So I don't think they went upstairs for 10 years or more. It was kind of interesting but scary at the exact same time. 350. You didn't wonder why there's bees in the house all the time? Well, you leaving the windows open? They probably didn't have air conditioning. It's an older house. This one here from the Good News Network, they found a 1,000-year-old sword decorated with spiritual symbols in a Dutch river. It is now on display. Looking as intact as the day it was forged, a 1,000-year-old sword has gone on display in the Netherlands, capturing a transition in medieval military technology with its expert degree in preservation, as well as dramatic culture of weapon embellishment with a series of religious symbols inlaid in copper. The sword is no doubt a national treasure. It was found in a river on the grounds of the Linkshoten estate in central region of the country during a routine dredging dating back between 1050 and 1150 CE. The sword has been donated to the, well, I'm not going to be able to pronounce that, but let's just say it's the National Museum of Antiquities out there in the Netherlands. Very, very cool stuff. The weapon remains remarkably well preserved after 1,000 years. Only the organic components such as the wooden grip and any leather wrappings have succumbed to time. It measures just over 3 feet in length and sports a crossguard and a semicircular pommel as an archetypal an image of a medieval sword as one could hope to see. The spitting image of what a sword would look like if you asked a 9-year-old boy to draw one. Traces of the one hilt are still visible and preserved on the sword. The iron is barely corroded due to the oxygen-poor environment of the wet soil it was buried in. but was probably forged with high-quality iron regardless, judging by the completeness of the weapon's silhouette. The iron was later confirmed to be Dutch in origin as well. Very, very cool stuff. I like that historical stuff. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980. Features USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Lush-Eye, and South Lake Union with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We are also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life. For 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots, stop future financial storms, don't blow your life savings away. Visit madronafinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last, but certainly not least, we are giving away 4 tickets to the Washington State Fair. It is time to do the Puyallup, the Washington State Fair, to celebrate its 125th anniversary. With food, fun, and entertainment, the Washington State Fair has it all. Get your tickets now at thefair.com. That's thefair.com. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and 4 tickets to the Washington State Fair. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And don't forget to join the KVI crew out at the King County Fair this weekend. Get all the information at kvi.com. That's going to do it for us today, my friends. But fear not, we will be back on Monday with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.